And it's now starting to look pretty clear.
Good sign, let's go.
Hey guys, welcome back to Jurassic Collectibles. You're here in my collection room, and as you can see in the background, we got some Jurassic Park vintage candies. These have been reviewed on the channel. There's some Jurassic Park Topps cards, sealed packets there. We have reviewed the Topps cards on the channel. Anyway, I'll put links to all of that down below. But today I wanted to share with you this new parcel that has just arrived, and I opened the top and then I resealed it with a little bit of excitement tape, because I knew that you guys would probably like to see the big reveal. Let's remove that tape. So first off, we got a load of newspaper, and here it is, the big reveal. Oh, it's the Jurassic Park Electronic Pinball game. As you can see, the packaging sports the beautiful classic Jurassic Park sunset, the logo in the corner, akin to many of the Kenner products. I don't believe this was made by Kenner, but I might be wrong. And as you can see, it's got the wonderful electronic font along the top here that's also on the Jurassic Park T-Rex from Kenner. It says 4 realistic dinosaur sounds, and here's a good look at the tabletop pinball game. It's not a large pinball game, this is more like a smaller toy tabletop version. It says here real pinball action, automatic scoring and reset button, 2 easy to use ball flippers, flashing lights with dinosaur sounds when ball hits bumpers. Now this requires 4 C batteries, not included, and it comes with electronic flashing lights. Okay, so let's get this out of the box. It's actually quite cool when I'm moving the box around, I can hear the balls rolling around. Still has the price sticker on one side, and it was $17 back in the day. Carefully flipped over onto its back, we can see the reverse artwork and the manufacturer. It was Kid Dimension. They made a few sort of edge case Jurassic Park pieces, and yeah, this is really cool. Let me know in the comments down below, did you own this back in the day? I'd really love to hear from you, and what were your experiences playing with this one. Most notably, at the top here, the tape is actually severed, which is good because it means I can potentially open this up and have a look at the contents. The other end, meanwhile, does appear still sealed. So actually, it says here Kid Dimension Inc. This is a subsidiary of Hasbro, so that's interesting. This is actually marked as being made in 1993. A lot of Jurassic Park merchandise is marked as being made in 1992, so this was probably made after the initial run of toys when it was looking like it was going to be really popular. Here we have an automatic digital scoreboard. It says there, embryo reproduction monitor counter. Playing surface illustrated with authentic Jurassic Park dinosaurs. And here we can see the Brachiosaurus. There's velociraptors there. Tyrannosaurus Rex. They appear to be in their sort of novel depictions. Interesting. And there's the helicopter and the Jeep. So it comes with the instruction sheet, which is really nice. Looking closely at the print quality, it doesn't appear to have any kind of pixelation or signs of it being like a repro, so that is the original instructions sheet, which is pretty cool. Okay, so let's get this out. So sadly this one is a little bit disappointing. This actual indicator here, this electronic part, is actually snapped off and missing, and I think when I move this around I can hear something other than the ball that's kind of like shaking around in here. This surface looks pretty worn and battered, so it's had a lot of play wear. The stickers are faded, that's fine, that's just because of time. The other thing that worries me is the actual screw here for the battery box is missing, and the plastic part seems to be snapped a little bit there. And these contacts are quite corroded, there's a little bit of rust seeping in. So I guess what I need to do is have a look at this thing A little bit disappointed that the seller didn't describe this damage, but that's the risk you take. Still within reason for the seller to have sold it at the price that I got it. Okay, a few minutes later, and I've taken out a few of the screws off of this top compartment and managed to remove it. There was actually a little bug jammed down in one of the screw holes, but it's actually yielded a bit of treasure by taking off this cover and looking inside, because as I said, I suspected something was rattling inside, and there was this part of plastic that fell out, which actually is a perfect fit for this section of the light fitting, so that can be glued back in place carefully. Also, just in here, I see another little bit of treasure. Let's get this out. What is it? It is the light cover, but I can replace this fitting and then replace the light cover, and we should be good to go. I might have to look at the corroded electronic parts down below, but yeah, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I am going to use a little bit of super glue, what we call a bud over here. I think you have a different name for them in the States. I'm just going to put a little bit of super glue on there. Okay, and then I'm going to pop this in just using that one side of obvious sort of scored plastic where it definitely snapped off. And what I'm actually going to do is just douse the reverse side in a little bit more super glue so that it just won't snap easily in the future. As I was doing this, I was thinking, you know, I want this to fit perfectly, and you know, it fits pretty well, but the thing I've got to remember is that actually this is going to be occluded by the light cover anyway. Okay, and while I wait for the glue to dry, I just noticed this is a little bit dirty, so I've got a little bit of cleaning fluid here. Seeing as it's you know, a light cover, I want it to be fairly crystal clear once it's up and running. So yeah, that should do the job. There we go, look at that, good as new. Okay, so one thing I want to do is clean this thing, because it looks a little bit dirty, and also visibility on this top part of the pinball game is probably most crucial so that you can actually play the game. What I've done is I've actually covered up some of the sticker decals with some masking tape so that my cleaning doesn't touch or damage the decals or their adhesion to the surface. So I'm going to try and be delicate around these areas, but I've just got some window and glass cleaner and a white cloth, and I'm just going to put some fluid on there, and you'll see, I think, if I just wipe even just a little bit, and there you can kind of see how dirty it actually is. Okay, so that's already looking, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but that's already looking miles better. It just has a sort of a fresh look to it. So what's left are kind of like the history of play, which is kind of nice in a way. This thing's been well loved, but it's got some surface scratches, some dings. And what I'm going to do is try and do something non-destructive. I'm going to use an abrasive paste. So here it is, it's called rubbing compound for smoothing and blending new paint surfaces. I've used this on other things like acrylic, when I get like little dings in acrylic, and it's kind of smoothed out scratches before, which is really handy. It's kind of like a really fine sandpaper, like microscopic. Okay, so I've given that a good buff, and now I'm just going to take some water on a clean cloth and just wipe away the excess. So I'm just going to give it another clean. And it's now starting to look pretty clear and decent. Alright, I'm now going to give the rest of this a clean. I can see that on the sides here it's a little bit dirty, so it's time to wipe down the remaining surfaces. So oftentimes it's just a build-up of dust. Sometimes it can be, if it's been in a smoky home, you can get a little bit of a sort of yellowing. But yeah, that's already looking miles better. On fiddlier areas like these buttons on either side, I'm just using a little cotton bud. And it's already looking a much brighter shade of yellow. Now, looking down inside here, I've actually spotted the LED for the light that was actually broken. It's also got a hole at the bottom here and two little arms either side. Now I think what happens is the LED probably goes through this bottom hole, comes up and sits between those two arms. Let's just give that a quick go. Don't want to be delicate. There's the LED poking through, and I bet it sits nicely in there like that. Yeah, there we go. That looks like a pretty good fit. And that should all slide back into place. There we go. And there's a little LED poking through still. Okay, I think I might put a little adhesive behind that just to keep the LED in place. I'm just worried that might fall out. So I found this double-sided sticky adhesive foam. I'm just going to cut a really tiny piece of this and put it in that little gap to keep the LED in place. It'll stay in place. There we go. So fiddly. And then I'm just going to stick that LED on the adhesive foam, and that should be enough to just keep that from falling back into the mechanism. There may have originally been some adhesive in that gap that's kind of disintegrated over the years, but now it's time to replace that all-important light cover. And there we go, we have a nice fancy pants new light restored and back in place. Okay, so let's replace those top screws, this time minus the bug. Okay, flipping the thing over, I'm also going to clean the underside. I know we're never going to see it, but I just want to give the whole thing a nice, good clean. And lastly, I want to deal with this kind of rusted corrosion. You can see that some has seeped onto the plastic here where moisture has got into the battery box and it's actually caused this area to rust. Now in order for the electric current to flow through there, this metal needs to be cleaned back a bit, I think. It might still work as it is, but the likelihood is that the rust is stopping this thing from working. So I'm just going to use a little bit of this white wine vinegar, which is acidic, and it'll take away a lot of that rust. So I keep a little jar of white wine vinegar for just this type of thing, getting rid of rusty areas, and I'm just going to use a cotton bud. Just dip it in the vinegar and then apply it to the rusty area. And you can also use it to wipe away these areas where the rust has seeped onto the plastic. And you can already see what a difference that's making. The bulk of the rust has come away and it's started to turn this sort of metallic black. So I'm just going to work further into this area, just make sure that there's no more of that rust. And I find sometimes getting a little bit of torchlight on it reveals how rusty it's really looking. So if I turn on the light here, so you can see there's some more around the bottom here, a little bit more around the top. But that's looking miles better already. And you can even see some areas of silver showing through now. Okay, if I turn on the torch here, so this is how it's looking now after a bit of scrubbing with the cotton buds. Both the contacts are revealed now, and should be much better now for working with the batteries. There's still some tarnishing, but there's not much I can do about that. Before I put batteries in, I'm going to let this dry, and I'm going to apply a multi-purpose oil coat just to try and prevent rust from creeping back in. Okay, so I've got a fresh pack of Duracell batteries here, so let's give this thing a go. Obviously I'd love this to work, but you know, I've got to bear in mind that this thing is nearly 30 years old and might not function properly. Now on the battery box here, it actually slides into place and secures fine. I just shaved off the excess plastic from this broken part so that it doesn't catch on anything, and actually that looks pretty nice now. It's fairly smooth. Okay, here we go. Oh! So the light worked, and it looks like the counter has started moving. Up here there's a counter reset button, so I'm gonna hit that. It's working. Okay. Good sign. Let's go. Oh! So whenever there's a sound effect, this guy lights up. And you can see whenever the ball hits one of these bumpers, they light up too, along with the sound effect. Really cool. I love it. This is actually a lot of fun. Oh. That was the spitter. So it's actually, that thunder crashing sound is the T-Rex. It's the T-Rex footstep. So as you hit each of these dinosaurs, it actually plays the correct sound effect. The reason why we're getting that high pitch is because there's a velociraptor here and there's a velociraptor there. So they're both quite frequent, so you get that sound a lot. The T-Rex is like a thunder crash, the Dilophosaurus is like a frill rattling. The Brachiosaurus, I'm assuming, is a similar thunderous sound, but we'll see if we can hit the Brachiosaurus. So that actually was the Brachiosaurus at the end there. It's kind of like sounds like a slower thunder crash. I'm assuming it's like a louder footstep. But that's all the dinosaur sounds. So we've got the screaming for the Velociraptor, like a rattling sort of frill rattle / roar for the Dilophosaurus, a thunderclap for the T-Rex, which I assume is like the footstep, and then a louder one for the Brachiosaurus. So I think you have to use this ball reset, see, to get the ball to rest ready in the spring, like that, and then that acts as a counter for how many times you reset the ball. But the problem is the momentum of the spring actually makes this thing sort of revolve back, so it kind of works. So that's the Dilophosaurus, you heard it twice there. Really cool. I love this thing so much. My kids are going to love this. Okay, so the box exterior is actually in pretty good condition already, but what I like to do when I get a new box is just go over it very lightly with a slightly damp cloth. Not drenched in water, just very slightly damp, and it just helps to lift off the dust and dirt that's gathered on the box. And I actually tend to use detergent so often with water that I pre-mixed some water and detergent in this bottle. This is an old screen clean fluid bottle, but when it ran out I've decided to use it as a little bottle for storing detergent and water. So I'm just going to spray some lightly onto this cloth. Okay, not too damp, so it's just just feeling damp, it's not wet. And I'm just going to gently just give this thing a wipe, as if I'm dusting. Not like I'm rubbing the surface, just dusting it. And you'll see, look at that, instantly, look at that dirt, lines of dirt. So that's just an initial wipe. Okay, so I've now given the box a clean all over and it's looking much better. The colours are much more vibrant and darker in areas. And most of the dirt was actually on the top, so I could tell that this thing had been stored like this, so most of the dust and dirt had kind of landed naturally on the top. So I've just removed the batteries because you don't want to leave batteries in there in case they corrode and cause more damage to the battery box. But I printed off this little bit of paper here that just explains that this was refurbished in June 2021 to working order. The red warning light was repaired, the clear panel's been polished and cleaned, and the rust has been removed in the battery box. And I'm going to leave this inside here so that if anyone owns this after me, they know it was restored to working order. But I found these two little pieces inside when I opened up the pinball machine. There's a little nut and a little bit of plastic, and I think it's to do with the fact that there used to be a bolt that went in here and actually, you know, screwed shut, but that's been lost over the years, so there's no need for it. And the battery box actually closes shut fine without it, so there's no need to kind of repair that. I've got silica gel here. This is going to go in and just stop moisture from gathering in the battery box and stop corrosion from happening again. So I'm just going to stuff that in and make sure it all fits. And then I'm going to put the battery box on. And that's safely stowed in there for anyone that may find it later on. And obviously if I were to sell this, I'd be transparent and say, you know, it's a refurbished pinball machine. So there we go, guys, it's been refurbished, cleaned, and it's in a better state than when I found it, and it was great to actually have a go. That was the kind of cool thing about this being an already open box. I hope you enjoyed this refurbish and review. In the meantime, guys, rate, comment and subscribe. Check out the rest of our Jurassic Park toy reviews, and I'll see you in the next video.